Now, Ms. Zia, how has getting married changed things for you?
Getting married has made changes in so many multitude of ways, intangible and tangible, in our lives, that we are even discovering new ways every day. But in the most immediate sense, it was in how our families related to us. And so when we first got married in 2004 and had our wedding party, we have a niece who was 2 years old when Leah and I got together. She's my brother's daughter, and she has only known Leah and me as Auntie Helen and Auntie Leah. She has only known us as together. And she was about 15 or 16 when we had the wedding party. She came to celebrate with us. And when she got off the plane and came and saw Leah and me, it was the first time she really saw us after our wedding vows at City Hall. She came over, gave us a big hug, gave Leah a hug, and said, "Auntie Leah, now you're really my auntie." And here we were. I was a little surprised at that, because I thought, well, you've only known her as your auntie. She's always been your auntie. But then I could see from her little child and teenager point of view that somehow us being officially married made a difference to her, and that Leah was now really her auntie. It made a difference to our parents, to how our parents related to us. It made a difference to how we related to people, because when you say you're a domestic partner, people, you know, Leah and I spend a lot of time with each other. We go to social engagements with each other. We go to work engagements in the world, and people say, well, who's this person who seems to be hanging on to you awfully close? And if I say, oh, she's my partner, I can't count the number of times people say, oh, partner in what business? And Leah and I got used to having to have an answer to that, to say, well, we're partners in life. And then we just get used to watching the look on their faces to see whether they got it, and often it would be just this look of bewilderment. Oh, what business is life? Do you mean life insurance? And for our parents and for our families, you know, marriage is not just about us and our relationship. It's a matter of how our families also relate to people. You know, for me to show up at every family event in Leah's family, every kind of social engagement in her family, people ask, well, who's she? You know, who's this? And for her parents or for her 94-year-old auntie to say, well, this is Helen's friend. Well, she must be a really good friend, because she's been coming to these events for the last 17 years. She's a really good friend. But friend didn't quite capture it. Partner, they never got. They never said, oh, Helen is Leah's partner. And suddenly, they were able to say, Helen is my daughter-in-law. My mother, I would watch. My mother is an immigrant from China. English is her second language. She really doesn't get what partner is. I would be around her and her friends who would look at Leah, and I could hear them say, sometimes in English, sometimes in Chinese, who's she? You know, and my mother, before we would marry, would struggle and just say, she's Helen's friend. And then it changed, and she would say, this is Helen's, this is my daughter-in-law. And they would get it. And whether they approved or disapproved, it didn't matter, they got it. It's like you don't insult somebody's wife, you don't insult somebody's mother. She is clearly saying, this is my wife, that's it, end of story, there's no questions. Wife in what, spouses in what, we're not partners in life or some business. And so it changed things on a very huge level like that. And beyond that, I would say marriage, in how it affected our families, was not just about us and how people related to us. Our families related to each other differently, because marriage is, and I'm beginning to understand what I've always read, marriage is the joining of two families. So my family and Leah's family now relate to each other differently. My mother is the in-law to Leah's side of the family. Leah's father became an in-law to my brother, who lived about 5 minutes away from Leah's father while he was still alive. And in those 15 years before we were married, that my brother lived near my father-in-law, they didn't really make any effort to see each other. After we were married, my father-in-law, Leah's father, actually would stop by my brother's house, stop by and drop things off, you know, fruit that was growing in his yard, things like that. My brother is quite active in Hawaii. Leah's, and so please bear with me as I describe the relationship. Leah's brother's wife, my sister-in-law, has a sister who runs in the same circles as my brother. Okay, extended family. They see each other as in-laws now. When they are at a public event, they will go and my brother will say, "This is my in-law, you know. This is Candy, she's related to me." And people will say, "How?" And then he will explain, she's, you know, she's my sister and her sister-in-law are married to each other. And then they wait to look and see, you know, whether people understand that. But the message is they're family. And so our families related differently to each other. Leah's dad had a terminal illness when he was in hospice not long ago. He just passed away not even 2 months ago. When he was in the hospital, in hospice care, Leah and I went to the hospital and we were at his side quite a lot. And of course, the other hospital workers, it's like who comes to hospice care? It's the closest immediate family members. They're the ones who are there around the clock. And they would say to Leah's dad, who was not doing well, "Who are these? Are these your daughters?" And Leah's dad said from his hospital bed, "This is my daughter, and this is my favorite daughter-in-law." And so it was like, Leah said, he said daughter-in-law, and I said, he said favorite. But it was a way that even in being so ill, he could describe who we were. And so that was a difference it made. And in the important events in life, which I guess if we summarize our lives and we say birth, our lifetime partner, creating our own family, and death, when it was time for Leah's dad's funeral, that's when the family comes together. That's when you put an obituary and you say who was in the family. When you lay out the memorial service hall and you say who sits here and who sits there and who has what role, and the members of the immediate family are there in the closest circle, and there was no question that I was Leah's wife and I was a member of the family, and there was no ambiguity about it. I wasn't some partner in business or partner in life. I was her spouse, and I was right there with the front row, with the first row in the family, and I had my responsibilities as well as being a member of the family. And so in those important moments in our lives, marriage made it very clear that I was family, that we are family, and where we stand.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. I have nothing further.